In Utah, people have all the time in the world, but not because they have nothing to do. It's because the earth, water, wind, and billions of years have given them a natural landscape that preserves and exposes all of geologic history. The native people call this the land of the sleeping rainbow for its contrasting hues and eternal beauty. This timeless realm has presented the people of Utah with a unique treasure to which they have added their own compelling history. With a firm sense of who they are and where they come from, Utahns are eager to welcome the Olympic Winter Games and the world to their world and share their story of a new beginning in an ancient land. Utahns have always had much to celebrate. They do it often, and they do it with gusto. Their Western heritage is enthusiastically embraced, and that is why they continue to relive it, not only because it is their unique story, but because that legacy is legendary. The adventures of daily life in the West became unforgettable history, fusing courage and spirit with tall tales, folklore, and myth. The past is also celebrated to commemorate the ancient civilizations of the Fremont and Anasazi people, and the modern indigenous tribes, Ute, Paiute, Goshute, Shoshone, and Navajo, here 500 years before the first white settlements. Many immigrant cultures are honored in remembrance of all who came west in search of work, riches, peace, isolation, or nothing more than a promising future. If you experience this primitive kingdom of rocks, erosion, and color, you will understand why Utah's past never dies. Explorer geologist John Wesley Powell, first to document this enchanted country, described Utah this way in 1869 in what is now Canyonlands National Park.
Below is the canyon through which the Colorado runs. From the northwest comes the Green in a narrow, winding gorge. Away to the west are lines of cliff and ledges of rock, ledges from which the gods might quarry mountains, cliffs where the soaring eagle is lost to view, and 10,000 strangely carved forms in every direction, and beyond them, mountains blending with the clouds.
Already blessed with some of the most spectacular reality imaginable, Utahns now get to celebrate their dream.
Well, the International Olympic Committee has decided to award the 19th Olympic Winter Games to the city of Salt Lake City.
For 2 weeks in February, the 19th Olympic Winter Games will come to town, followed in March by the 8th Paralympics. The world will converge on the crossroads of the American West, Salt Lake City, Utah. That moment will be dramatic theater at its best. Characters with a sense of immortality, a plot unscripted, and a stage as magnificent as the struggle itself. The Olympic flame, ignited by the sun in Olympia, Greece, travels the world, signaling it is time once again. In America, more than 11,000 torchbearers will carry the flame 14,000 miles through 46 states. An Olympic tradition since 1936. The athletes will try to fulfill their dreams of glory. Some will be shattered, yet there will be memories of joy and pain. This is Olympic reality. With an average 40 feet of powdery snow annually and a dozen mountain resorts within an hour of the capital city, skiing is an obsession here in winters that are a fantasy come true. They beckon not only skiers, but jumpers, skaters, sledders, anything to do with ice and snow. Many call it the greatest snow on Earth. Into this winter wonderland, 3,500 athletes and officials representing 80 nations will come to Rice-Eccles Stadium for the biggest Winter Olympics ever. For the first Winter Olympics of the new millennium, the Salt Lake Organizing Committee spent 10 years preparing event venues all no more than 50 miles from the Olympic Village. What drama and memories will unfold here? On mountains where Army infantry trained for Alpine combat in World War II, and where miners in the early 1900s found an innovative way to move their precious haul. Who will conquer Park City's giant slalom? Who will take the greatest risk at Snowbasin's 90-mile-per-hour death-defying downhill? Or disregard the frightening possibilities at the new 80-mile-per-hour bobsled and luge courses to challenge for gold? This time, women will compete in bobsled. The new, even riskier skeleton event, on your stomach, head first, no steering, no brakes, has not been seen in Olympic competition since 1948. Many new facilities have been added. Thousands of trees have been planted and wetland habitats restored to ensure environmental responsibility. And all the venues will be available for post-Olympics training, competition, or recreational use by the public, inspiring anyone who dares to dream. The broadcast and print media will cover the games from the remodeled Salt Palace Convention Center. The first extensive high-definition broadcast will be transmitted digitally, and coverage of the games will reach a potential audience of more than 3 billion in 160 countries in 50 languages. Organizers are putting the finishing touches on a vibrant capital city, nestled within the splendor of the Oquirrh Mountains and the Wasatch Range. 60,000 Utahns applied as volunteers, and many businesses in town are hopeful they will succeed beyond the sale of merchandise.
I went to Nagano, I went to Atlanta, and I heard from their locals as they kept asking us, how are we doing? You know, are you enjoying our city? And I think the people here will be asking that. They may not know that now, but they're going to be really hoping that everyone from the other countries are enjoying the uniquenesses of our city. Do we look good? Do we look strange? How do we look? And I'm sure we will look good.
It is right and proper that the Olympics were awarded to the people of Salt Lake City, with an environment perfectly suited for sports. It is why their emblem, the snowflake, blending courage, culture, and contrast, was created. Utah's reputation as a recreational haven has earned it year-round playground status. All in all, there are 41 million acres of public use land, 3/4 of Utah.
Utah really is a geologic wonderland of sorts. The Earth is 4.5 billion years old, and a good part of that record is recorded right here in Utah. And virtually the entire history of life is recorded here, which is unique, relatively speaking, compared to much of the rest of the world. You can walk up a hill and be walking through millions of years of time.
The artistry and battle scars of nature are all on display here. You can stand on a sandstone pinnacle 2,000 feet up at Dead Horse Point and view the mighty Colorado River, sculptor of deep gorges and towering walls of the Canyonlands. Arches National Park features 2,000 such natural phenomena, impressive examples of how rivers, rainwater, and ice left magnificent sandstone relics 150 million years in the making. Bryce Canyon is known for its colorful display of limestone spires known as hoodoos, said by legend to be evil people turned to stone by a coyote spirit. In Zion National Park's valleys of reds and greens, 3,000-foot rock walls conceal the sky, and all the colors of the season are on parade. Near the Arizona border sits man-made Lake Powell, boasting a longer shoreline than that of the entire west coast of the United States. 10,000 years ago, ancient eyes gazed upon these same vistas. They lived in the cliffs and recorded their histories on rocks as paintings and etchings. Their descendants today have directly influenced the Olympic Games, as some of their spiritual animal legends have been adopted as Olympic mascots. The hare runs swifter. The coyote climbs higher. The bear stands stronger. Citius, Altius, Fortius. That is the Olympic motto. The Great Salt Lake the ancients knew was mainly freshwater. It was called Lake Bonneville, and what is left of it today is the largest inland sea in the Western Hemisphere, 8 times saltier than the ocean. About 15,000 years ago, Lake Bonneville would have put the Salt Lake City Airport 1,000 feet underwater. It covered parts of what became 3 states. Rain and melting ice flooded it, but at the end of the Ice Age it began to shrink, and shrink, and shrink, mostly from evaporation. And when the shrinking slowed 5,000 years later, it left remnants. The shoreline of Provo, Utah Lake, and the famous Bonneville Salt Flats, where since 1914, land speed records have been made and broken on 15 miles of lake bottom dried up thousands of years ago. Mormon leader Brigham Young reached the Salt Lake Valley in 1847. Seeking isolation and religious freedom, he had set out to journey 1,200 miles with 143 men, 3 women, 72 wagons, 93 horses, 66 oxen, 52 mules, 19 cows, 17 dogs, and a few chickens. Surveying a desert, he saw only a kingdom, God's kingdom on earth. This is the place, he announced, and with that began to establish a permanent Mormon homeland. They irrigated and farmed, mapped their city and planned their temple. It would take 40 years to build. Today, the temple sits at the heart of downtown Salt Lake City in Temple Square, the genesis of a grid of tree-lined 10-acre square blocks designed with streets 132 feet wide, room enough for teams of 4 oxen and a covered wagon to safely turn around. Behind the temple is a tabernacle, home to 320 divine voices of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. The church today has enormous economic and political influence. Missionaries still travel the world, bringing home the language and customs of 140 countries. The world's largest family history genealogical library is operated by the church, which believes a unified family foundation will better prepare for a reunion in the afterlife. The beehive on the Utah flag represents the original settlement of Deseret and the Mormon pioneer values of industriousness and community. At This Is the Place Heritage Park, you can learn about daily pioneer life and some of the folklore, like when seagulls arrived to save the first crops from crickets and people from certain starvation. The California gull, Utah's state bird, has never been forgotten. Thousands died trying to reach the Salt Lake Basin, but over the next 2 decades, more than 70,000 would make it.
I chum with Latigo Gordon. I drink at the Blue Goose Saloon. And I dance at night with the Mormon girls. And I ride home beneath the moon.
Hal Cannon is artistic director for folk arts at the Olympic Arts Festival. His band researches and plays the historic music of the West, whether pioneer, cowboy, dance tune, or ballad, to bring Utah culture to the world.
When people come to the Olympics, they really come not only to see the sports, but they also are very interested in the places that host the games and what their traditions are, who the people are that live there, how they express themselves, what their values are.
The culture of the West will always be nostalgic. The American cowboy, the horse, the prairie, all are immortal. It was 1860 when the Pony Express took over the mail route from the cumbersome stagecoach, galloping from Salt Lake to Sacramento, California, 125 miles a day per rider to move mail and news. 80 riders, 420 horses on the loneliest road in America for $60 a month. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid robbed banks until the railroad connected east with west at Promontory Point in 1869. Then they robbed trains. The railroad signaled a new age of technology, commerce, and an influx of new immigrants. Lake resorts like Saltaire attracted 5,000 ballroom dancers every Saturday night, brought there by open-air rail cars. By the turn of the 20th century, Utah was in business, mining and farming, manufacturing and publishing, as her natives and mountain men, heroes and outlaws all faded into a romanticized mosaic of what used to be. It is the working cowboy who became the enduring symbol of all that was good in the West. These are cowboy poet Waddy Mitchell's thoughts on the link between Utah's history and the Olympic Games.
While gathering cattle near the ruins of a long-abandoned homestead in the shadows of the mountains, questions swarmed around my mind of the people who had claimed there. Most forgotten now and long dead, still, I wondered what had prompted them to leave their world behind. Soon these questions led to more, like why it is that some folks always need to push their borders out beyond the furthest milestone. On a never-ending quest to find new ways and trails to blaze, and in the process, stretch the realm of what is built and done and known. And since mankind started walking, it's been swifter, higher, stronger, as if pushed by some deep need to keep their limits unconfined. Almost thriving, always striving for things bigger, better, longer, in some unrelenting pursuit of perfection, redefined.
The native tribes of Utah are the Aboriginal hosts. The Utes, for whom the state is named, encountered some of the first Europeans to enter the area, Spanish missionaries looking for a route west from New Mexico. The year was 1776. The Declaration of Independence had just been signed.
I think as far as the Ute people, we'd like to welcome the world here to our homeland. But for me, I'd like them to come here and realize that this is a special place, and it's not just mountains. Our people were in these mountains, and to have some respect for the earth here. And then when our time is done, leave it in a good way. And I think that's something that we can, we as human beings can teach each other.
The bear dance, it's a dance that has been with the Ute people for hundreds of years, and it's still with the people today. This is the instrument that is used to mimic the sound of the bear. And they would form this long line, and they would go back and forth like this. The bear, he said, do this to honor me each spring, and it will help your people become strong.
Determined to keep their heritage alive, all the Utah tribes will collaborate for the first time on an exhibition of artifacts and defining moments in their culture. Presented at the Utah Museum of Natural History, it will be historical and contemporary because their message is durability.
Usually people think that we're gone. In fact, I've had people say to me, I didn't know there were any Indians anymore. You know, books, movies, TV, you know, they portray us as we were. So each tribe's going to describe themselves in that kind of way. And this is a wonderful opportunity for us to say we're still here.
During the Olympics is going to provide an opportunity for the world to see the tribes or the nations that live here, and we still live here. We still do the things that we did yesterday. We still communicate with the spirits. We still sing our songs. We still speak our language. The only thing that's changed are the objects. Yesterday we might have used the horse. Today we use the automobile. We might have used rock writing to make our documents before. Nowadays we have the computer and the laptop and the home page and everything. It's modern. So outside of the objects, things haven't changed. We're still the same Nuchu that we were a long time ago.
One of the reasons I'm here in the state of Utah is animals like this. Now, this might not look like much to you, but this is very important to me. This is part of a skeleton of the first Tyrannosaurus rex found in the state of Utah. This represents a single bone from behind the eye socket.
As curator of paleontology at the University of Utah Museum of Natural History, Scott Sampson oversees the state's most extensive paleo collection. He knows those bones have stories to tell, and it's his passion to listen.
Now, people ask me on a regular basis, don't we already know everything there is to know about dinosaurs? And the answer to that is an emphatic no. In fact, in Utah just last summer in Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument in the southern part of the state, we found remains of probably 3 previously unknown dinosaurs. Fossils are not necessarily better preserved in Utah, but they're preserved in abundance from a large number of time periods. For example, the dinosaurs that you see behind me are from a site called Cleveland Lloyd, and this site preserves thousands upon thousands of elements, most of those from this big carnivore called Allosaurus. And this site is unique in the world in some respects, especially for a large carnivore. We have everything from little babies to full adults, so we can tell about how these animals grew up.
For almost a century, Utah's dramatic scenery has served as a backdrop to some of Hollywood's most memorable motion pictures and television productions.
Isn't it beautiful?
I'm telling you, if I drown, I swear to God, I'll kill you.
The Olympic movement has always integrated culture with sport, commissioning works in dance, music, and poetry. Salt Lake City may be the largest to host the Winter Olympics, yet it is one of the smallest in the United States to have its own symphony, opera, theater, and ballet. The Olympic Arts Festival will showcase guest performers, never-before-seen works, and special events in exhibition. Words, music, dance, film, even rodeo. One of the highlights will be an appearance by the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, world-renowned ambassador of cultural expression and black heritage. It was Judith Jamison's distinctive talent and dramatic stage presence as principal dancer that gave the Ailey Company immediate international admiration. Today, artistic director Jamison is creating an original ballet based on the life of gifted Olympian Florence Griffith Joyner to be performed during the Games.
We're looking for beauty in motion in a different way. The goal is not to win, but the goal is to transform and change people's minds about what they feel about performance. When I look at these films of FloJo, is her beauty, but that's secondary. Her perseverance, her being the best, really pushing things to the wall, to the extreme, beyond what she thought was possible. I asked my dancers to go beyond the wall all the time.
When a state hosts the Olympic Games, it enters the far-reaching limelight of global curiosity. Utah's capital is emerging as an atypical but exemplary 21st century city. As it expanded from agriculture and mining to communications and factories and urban services, it never lost its identity. Kennecott's Bingham Canyon Mine is still one of the world's leading producers of copper. Geneva Steel remains prominent as Utah's largest private employer. Defense continues to be a major industry here, going from weapons testing in World War II to designing military guidance systems today. Recently rated the best place to live in the West, Utah is more than a pretty place. It has become the most computerized state in the country and is attracting high-technology businesses that require the highest quality workforce. Its universities are forging new ground in genetics, artificial intelligence, and cancer research. The first artificial heart and kidney were developed and transplanted here. And soon, artificial vision may bring light to those who live in darkness. So much is changing in Utah, yet cultural tradition remains in place. Old values, new ideas. And soon, even more will change. The Olympics do that to host cities. Utah and its people will embrace this opportunity. Some will come here and achieve the stature of Olympic champion. Others will be remembered not for their results, but their attempt. Valiant examples of how excellence can be defined by those who do not win. Kindred spirits of many who before them blazed trails and made their mark. In the best tradition of Greek theater, dramatic setting enhances performance. The 2002 Olympic Winter Games will wholeheartedly conform to that standard, giving these games a dimension beyond sport, sending athlete and spectator alike home with the ultimate gift. Utahns will once again celebrate, and this time the whole world will celebrate with them.